think after the Enter the Dragon was done with, well, then he called me and asked me to come over again. And finally, reluctantly, I agreed to do so. And I would have been in that picture, but within weeks, why Bruce met his death, so that was the end of that. Well, Bruce was a very understanding and patient and kind person in many ways. He didn't have too much patience in teaching somebody at that stage because he was such a intelligent person that he could just see something and just do it better than the guy that was showing it to him without going to a lot of detail. But I know with me, he knew that, as I said earlier, I had two left front feet and I couldn't do something right away. And so there were times when he became rather frustrated with me, but he was very patient in that he overlooked that because he felt that I had more knowledge than I given myself credit for, and so he kind of stuck with me on that. But I don't know of any case where he became very frustrated and really put somebody down, because I think that he knew that if you were giving your best to do something, he worked with you. He tried to structure things in terms of how your mentality, how your physical abilities were, and he would try to tailor something that he knew that you could handle. One day, Bruce and I were going out to the airport to pick up a friend that was coming in, and it was on a Sunday afternoon about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we had to go down through Chinatown to go out to the airport, and it was very quiet. There were no cars on the streets, and we were, I had grabbed a couple of apples in the store, and Bruce and I were chewing on apples, and we were talking and laughing and having a good time. We came to a particular stoplight, and I said, "Bruce, there's a motorcycle cop over there." And he said, "Yeah." I said, "I see him." So we proceeded through the light, and then we went on about, maybe 2,000 feet or 2,000 or more feet away to another stoplight, and the motorcycle patrolman was behind us. But he didn't show any action, and so when the light turned green, we went through it and proceeded another half a block, and all of a sudden we see this red light going on, so we pull over, and the motorcycle cop comes up to us, and he says, "Well," he said, "you guys are eating an apple and laughing and, having a good time." He said, "You're going 39 miles in 30-mile zone." He said, "You thought you were pretty, pretty good about that, didn't you?" And, he started making demeaning remarks, and I looked over at Bruce, and I saw him clench his fists. And I said, "Bruce," I said, "for God's sake, don't do anything, because we'll both be in jail." And so he kept his cool, but winning on that was that this motorcycle cop, I think he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder for some reason or other, and about 2 weeks later I read in the paper that he had done the same thing to some construction worker in a certain part of the city, and the construction worker laid him out and put him in the hospital, and so it was sort of a good feeling for both of us that he got his just dessert for doing something that he was going way beyond the call of duty. I think Bruce Lee had a message when he taught, and of course one of the goals was, as I said earlier, to try to achieve the equality of people of different ethnic backgrounds. But on the other hand, Bruce was trying to show us a way in which we could make ourselves better people. And the way I look at it is that, unfortunately, we have to go through the physical aspect of entering into the spiritual essence of the martial arts, and which I feel is the most important, the final plateau in one's life. And the reason I say that is because at that, the composition of the class as far as ethnicity was a little bit of everything. There were black people. In fact, the first student was a black fellow, Jesse Glover, and James DeMille. He was, I think, more Filipino than anything. We had Charlie Wu, who was Chinese, and myself, and there were several other white kids, and Doug Palmer, Joe Cowles, and other black students also. So Bruce didn't delineate and say, I'm only going to take so many blacks in or so many Chinese or anything like that. He just left it to who came in, and if they proved themselves to be of character, why, he let them in. When Bruce was in the class teaching, I mean, there was no voices in the background or anything. He had a complete attention from all of us, and he worked us until we dropped almost, and we just thoroughly enjoyed and respected it, and felt that we felt like it was just like reading the Bible. We swore by it, you know, and he was a kind of a person that when he told you that he was going to teach you something, if you had any doubt in your mind whether it was going to work or not, he personally showed you why it was working, and there was not an ounce of doubt in your mind after that what he had taught you was not completely useful. We've had, from time to time, we had athletes that were in there that were pretty coordinated and pretty fast, and obviously, from what I just told you, occasionally there were people that sort of thought that they had it down pretty pat, and they would get a little bit arrogant, and of course Bruce would sense that, and he would just sort of nonchalantly say, "Okay, well, come on, let's see what you can do." And he was so far above any of us anyhow that the minute that we tried to do anything like that, he just put us down as if you were handling a little baby, and it made you a believer in a hurry. And so, if you had any feelings in your body of arrogance or maybe a little bit of boastfulness, he put you right down to where you were at ground zero. When he was in Hong Kong, I think he felt that the Wing Chun system was probably the most realistic in terms of economy of motion and a lot minimizing the classicalness of things. And so, although he was well versed in the Charlie Fut, the praying mantis, and a lot of other styles like that, he could stand in front of you and imitate, 90% of them probably better than the people that were masters and the others could. But he felt that this was the most realistic thing. And of course, he always went by the axiom that the most simple, direct action was the most realistic. And he likened it to swimming on dry land versus swimming in the water. He said, at some point in time, if you continue to swim on dry land, you got to get into the action. You got to get into the water. But when he came over here, why, he pretty much stuck with the Wing Chun system, but along with his theory of economy of motion and practicalness, he modified it to what he thought was right. And since then, I have had students of a pretty firm background in Wing Chun that have come to my club here and wondered what we were doing because they didn't see too much resemblance. But I think that the testament in it is that Bruce finally developed a fighting method called what you call Jeet Kune Do that encompasses the most simplified thing but the most realistic thing. So I think his whole point was that at some point in time you need to subtract rather than keep adding. In the movies you have to do things that become more impressive in terms of what the audience sees, but you only have to look into the background, realize that the message there. The message is that it's not one of violence, but it's one of love and harmony, to get along with each other. To be able to find out who you are, so that you can also then react to somebody else. And maybe, I think we're all put on this world to do something, to create something, leave a message before you die that inspires somebody else to become better than they are. And I think it's our responsibility. I think Bruce left that message with each one of us, that it's our responsibility to create and leave that impression upon those around us, so that they can be better involved and better people themselves because of what Bruce taught us.